Welcome to the Practice Podcast, a show created by lawyers to help lawyers in life and business without all the complicated lawyer language. Let's welcome Bast Amron founders and your hosts, Jeff Bast and Brett Amron.
Hey, this is Jeff. Welcome to a special edition of the Practice Podcast. This episode is a recording from Bast Amron's 6th annual Business Advantage Forum, which took place on January 18th, 2024. The forum is a learning and networking event we host and underwrite each year with all proceeds donated to a charitable organization. This year, our theme was Connections, how to balance emotional intelligence with artificial intelligence in today's workplace. And we donated the proceeds from the event to Legal Services of Greater Miami, an organization that provides free legal services for the low-income communities of Miami-Dade and Monroe counties. What you're about to hear are the opening remarks from the president of Miami-Dade College, Madeline Pumariega. President Pumariega engaged the audience with her insightful thoughts about education in the modern age. She shed light on the connections between education and leadership in our ever-evolving world. Her relatable perspectives struck a positive chord, leaving the audience inspired and with a sense of purpose. We know you will enjoy this too, and we hope you enjoy the recording. And you can find more recordings from prior years on the podcast or on our website at bastamron.com/news. I'm excited to welcome our keynote speaker, Madeline Pumariega, which I expected to fumble that name, and I'm kind of going to give myself a little pat on the back. I asked her before how to pronounce it, and she gringoed it down for me and said, Madeline Pumariega. So thank you for that. Madeline is the president, may I call you Madeline? The president of Miami-Dade College. And some of you may not know that Miami-Dade College is the largest degree granting institution in the nation. Over the course of, let's go, come on. Do not hold your applause. Over the course of 50 years, Miami-Dade College has admitted more than 2 million students and formed the nation's most diverse student body. There are 167 nations and 63 languages represented in its student body. I mean, that is impressive. The college's 8 campuses and outreach centers offer more than 300 distinct degree pathways, including associate and baccalaureate degrees, career certificates, and apprenticeships. And Madeline is not only the first female president appointed to lead the school, but I loved learning that she's an alumni of the school. So she went there and now she's running the place. It's kind of like me. I work at Bast Amron and now he lets me run some of the things. Prior to some of the things, he lets me run some of the things. Prior to becoming Miami-Dade's president, she was appointed the first female and Hispanic chancellor of the Florida college system. In that role, she designed and implemented strategies to keep colleges accessible and affordable for Floridians, especially for those entering high-demand job fields. In 2019, Madeline became the executive vice president and provost of Tallahassee Community College. And in her current role as president of Miami-Dade College, Madeline has prioritized working with business partners to identify the skills needed by key industries and tailoring their higher education programs to match those needs. I mean, come on, I love it. So good. This intentional formation of strategic alliances and job pathways between the companies and the students accelerates each graduate's ability to enter the workforce immediately, and driving her relentless pursuit is the passion to develop leaders and build thriving communities. So I want to thank you first for building our community, strengthening those bonds, and for building connections. And so welcome, Madeline.
Thanks, Jeff, for that kind introduction. For those of you that don't know, I was born and raised in Hialeah. And when I graduated high school, I wasn't a book nerd, as my bio would think. When someone reads it, I go, I bet you they think I had a 4.0. I didn't. I knew how to play basketball really well. And I came to Miami-Dade College, then Miami-Dade Community College, on a basketball scholarship. And now, as many of you parents probably proudly get letters from colleges and universities all over the country, and you post them, how your kid got an offer here and there. My mother tore all those up, and she said, go to the little college and see if you can play basketball there. And that little college was Miami-Dade Community College, where she had been in 1971 after coming from Cuba for 10 years and working in a factory, wanting to pursue her dream to be a teacher. So she went to then Dade Junior College, and her program director for education happened to be the late Congresswoman Carrie Meek, who was then the director of education programs at Miami-Dade College. And I share that story because 63 years later, the college is still that same exact institution. That same institution that in 1960 got started in North Dade in what were chicken coops. And if you can imagine the country in 1960, and you can imagine this community in 1960. And that college is still the community's college. We still are doing what we were doing then, which was, and still is opening up opportunities to make dreams become a reality for so many in our community. And so I'm proud to be back in Miami and leading the college, I think, through an extraordinary time. And not just post-pandemic, but if you think about, and the panel will discuss more of that, the rapid adoption of technologies, especially artificial intelligence, and the part about how does it connect us and not disconnect us. And so the good news is that every time we survey employers, the skills that they want from employees, artificial intelligence today does not produce. It's empathy, it's emotional intelligence, it's cognitive reasoning, it's a sense of belonging. Those are still the human skills that every one of us, when we're looking to hire a person and not a computer, we look for. And so it's so important for us as a community to stay connected in that way. And the college does extraordinary things, and I'll talk about some of the AI stuff, but just on the cultural part, I'm so proud that the college is not only the workforce engine of this community, but it's a cultural engine. Think about the book fair just celebrated 40 years. Think about Miami-Dade 40 years ago. And we're still bringing 400 or 500 authors to downtown Miami for 7 days, and the rooms still get packed. Even though you might read the book on your Kindle, you still want to ask the questions. You still want that book autographed. You want to have, what do you want to ask that author? Are the personal questions that are not in the book. We just celebrated 40 years of the film festival. 40 years. And there's no other escape of life if going into a movie theater. And we don't go in, maybe Avatar, but look at Barbie and the blockbuster year it just had because it was human. Because people could identify with what was happening in that movie and it could resonate. And more than anything, it created connections. People wore pink. They took pictures. They put it on social media because we still, deep in our hearts, want the human connection. So in education, how do we make sure that we bridge the human connection with the machine connection? Because it's going to impact everything that we do in regards to artificial intelligence. When I became president in 2021, by the end of that year, we had 500 faculty go through artificial intelligence training. And they were not tech faculty, nurses, Masters of Fine Arts graduates, engineers, humanities, all of our faculty went through. So in 2022, we put grants together that faculty could apply and get funded on how they would use artificial intelligence to enhance student outcomes in their classrooms. And then in 2023, we were the first institution in Florida to launch a college credit certificate in artificial intelligence, an associate's in science in artificial intelligence, and a bachelor's of applied science in artificial intelligence, and have our cybersecurity program be designated as a center of excellence by the NSA. And I give you, right here in our community, right? I give you that foundation because if you think of what was happening in the first quarter of 2023, there were institutions all over the country banning AI, trying to spend millions of dollars on finding ways that students would use AI so that they could say they were plagiarizing and cheating. And we weren't there. Those weren't the conversations we were having, and it's not the conversations we're having now, because it is the intersection, I think, of education to find the human skills and the tech skills that still advance society. in the way that we work and the way that we access healthcare. I think that one of the greatest areas you're going to see artificial intelligence transform is healthcare and the way that we access healthcare, but the better data on diagnostics and medicine and research being in one place so that you're not, as a patient, cancer patient, having to go to 6 cancer centers all over the country, but the research is at the fingertips of your primary oncologist that may be treating you. Think of a time that there's not 6 opinions that you might have to go to because they're in one place. But there's still a lot of work to be done. The truth is understanding generative open AI and then artificial intelligence platforms and data and algorithms. And so when we think about the ethical aspect of artificial intelligence, that's where we have to turn to some of the guardrails that need to exist as they do today with data privacy and existing platforms, whether it's a Facebook platform or others. But when we think about open generative AI, ChatGPT, among others, you're not putting that genie back in the bottle. It's there. And so one of the first courses that we have is the ethics and AI. Average age in that class is 44. It's an in-person class. It's not on technology. It's actually in person because the robust conversation about ethics, right? And everyone's different moral compass. And so think about the rich conversations in an AI course being taught by a live professor with live students, because we still have the yearning for that human interaction and for that sense of connection and connectivity. So I think on the generative open AI, we've got to continue to work on critical thinking, which, by the way, a machine learning doesn't. Critical thinking happens in a very human way, and that is what I'm reading doesn't make sense. Does it all connect? And so trying to teach ourselves that what you might see in ChatGPT, while it can pass the bar, as we saw in its early days, right, and can pass a course by a C, we're really focused at the college on connecting students. Because here's the reality. The reality is that, again, the panel will talk about all of the technology, everything we're doing as the ecosystem really for the country and all of Latin America. When you think about Miami and you think about tech and you think a place where not only can you come as a founder, but it's a place that you can come and grow your business. It's a place that you can find investments. And most importantly, it has to be a place that you can find talent. And talent is the greatest asset we have. It's human capital. And so we sit in here, and how many of you have a degree? How many of you have a graduate degree? And I know I'm talking to legal aid, so most of you have them. But we have a narrative today that says not everyone has to go to college. That's a narrative. Oh, but college isn't for everyone. In a knowledge economy, education is for everyone. And we live still in a community where 50%, and you know because you donate your time and your effort to so many who are one paycheck away from being at the Chapman House or Camillus or under the bridge. Still today at Miami-Dade College, while there's 167 countries and 63 languages spoken, 58% of our students are the first in their families to go to college. And 60% qualify for federal Pell Grants, which means they live below the poverty line. Documented, verified, submitted. This is why we are so important in this room. We still have a community to build. We haven't arrived anywhere. We're arriving, and we're continuously arriving because it's all of us in this room that are creating opportunities and the power of connection. See, every student at MDC, when they walk through the doors, while we have the honors college students and they know they're going places to Georgetown and MIT and Harvard and Princeton, and our presidential scholars who've done phenomenal in high school and maybe are headed to FIU or UF or FSU, and our rising scholars that we're ensuring have a pathway to finish that associate's degree. Still, the majority of the students that enter Miami-Dade College are still looking to see if they belong. They're still trying to figure out whether they recently arrived in this country from Cuba or Colombia or Nicaragua, or whether they graduated from one of our high schools. So many are still trying to find that sense of belonging and that sense of being seen. And I would say that's the important element of today's conversation about not losing sight that those things are incredibly important as we build community. Technology doesn't build community. It builds platforms and where we make connections that might be easier to stay connected. The other day I I had to show my daughter what a Rolodex was. And she's like, what are you talking about? I go, this is how we stayed connected. People gave, why do people give all these business cards? What are you supposed to do with them, Mom, when they give you all these business cards? She was going through stuff and she just finds stacks of business cards, right? And I said, well, you used to collect them. And then finally you took a shortcut and you would just staple it. But if not, you would write it in. And if not, you had a secretary that would type it in. And that's how you went, I need to find something. You would go through the Rolodex and then find their card. And she was just like, what? I said, so I kind of feel like LinkedIn is the modern day Rolodex. That's probably the better version because we were trying to figure out whether the Rolodex was Instagram or LinkedIn. And I was like, nope, it's LinkedIn. It's more LinkedIn because everything's there. So these platforms are intended for us to have that, that roce. In Spanish, it's roce. It just means when you hang out with somebody, you feel comfortable and familiar, like you're going to meet Melissa Medina. And I know what Melissa's up to because we follow each other and her five beautiful kids and beautiful family and crazy pictures she takes. So when I see Mel, the first thing I want to do is what? Make a human connection of a hug and a kiss. But she seems and feels really familiar because I've been scrolling through what her Christmas was like. That won't replace the hug. And that won't replace these convenings. And so we have to stay the course, not only at the college, but in everything that we do in this community, because we can never forget that we have young children, young people, and many of us that need to get it right, that needs us to get it right so that we can continue to thrive and not just be a world-class city around tech and talent, but be a world-class city around diversity and a world-class city around building community. And most importantly, being a world-class city around being good citizens to each other and having a culture of care. So thank you so much for having me here today and letting me kick off your session.
For more information on this show and other resources, visit bastamron.com and connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram @BastAmron.